Lionel Messi just got outbid. Madonna just got outbid. Coldplay just got outbid. And the person who did it wasn't even on the field. He was dancing on it. If you told a football fan 6 months ago that a K-pop star's jersey would out-earn a Messi jersey at a charity auction tied to the World Cup final, they would have laughed you out of the stadium. But that is exactly what is happening right now, live, as we speak, on Christie's auction house website. Stay with me for the next few minutes, because this story has everything. History being made on a football pitch, A-list icons donating pieces of their careers, and one number, the number 7, quietly beating everyone in the room. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why this jersey is worth more right now than a piece of Messi's legacy. And I promise you, the reason is more emotional than you think. If you're new here, hit subscribe now, because we cover moments like this before anyone else does, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming in the next 60 seconds. Let's rewind to July 19th, 2026, MetLife Stadium, New Jersey. Spain and Argentina are about to play the FIFA World Cup final, the single biggest football match on the planet, watched by what is estimated to be over 1 billion people worldwide. But before a single ball is kicked in the second half, something happens that has literally never happened in the history of the tournament. FIFA and Global Citizen bring out the first ever official halftime show for a World Cup final. Not a friendly performance on the side, not a pre-match warm-up act. The actual halftime show, the same concept as the Super Bowl, except this time it's soccer's biggest stage, and it's happening for the very first time. The lineup is stacked. Coldplay, Shakira, performing the official tournament anthem, Die Die, Justin Bieber, and then, walking out onto that pitch, in front of a stadium packed with football's biggest stars and a global broadcast audience that dwarfs almost anything else on television this year, is BTS. 7 guys from Korea, about to become the first K-pop act in history to perform at a World Cup final halftime show. Let that sink in for a second. Out of every artist on planet Earth, BTS is the one making history on a football pitch. And one of those 7, Jimin, is wearing something that nobody in that stadium realizes is about to become the most talked about piece of merchandise from the entire tournament. Here's what he had on. A white, baseball-style jersey, red trim running along the collar, the sleeves, and down the sides, paired with white trousers. It's sharp, it's clean, it's got that stadium energy, but with a fashion edge that only Jimin can pull off. And stitched right into that jersey is a giant number 7. Now, if you know anything about football, you know jersey numbers matter. Number 7 has carried some of the sport's biggest legends: Cristiano Ronaldo, David Beckham, George Best. But this number 7 isn't about football at all. It's a tribute. 7 members of BTS, one number, worn by the member representing all of them on the biggest stage in world sport. That detail alone should tell you this was never just a stage outfit. It was a message. And a few days later, that message would end up in one of the most prestigious auction houses on Earth. On July 22nd, 2026, Christie's. Yes, the actual Christie's, the auction house that sells Picassos and Basquiat's, announced something unusual. They were opening an online charity sale called One Goal, an auction to benefit the FIFA Global Citizen Education Fund. 26 lots. Not just football memorabilia, but items worn by every single major performer from that historic halftime show. Think about the size of that lineup for a second, because this is where the story gets wild. Madonna donated a pair of her fingerless gloves. Justin Bieber put in his Skylark sneakers. Chris Martin from Coldplay handed over his handwritten lyrics for the song, We Dance, plus the actual setlist from the show. Shakira contributed the outfit she wore in the music video for Die Die, the official tournament anthem. And then on the football side, Christie's brought in signed jerseys from some of the sport's biggest legends: a Lionel Messi jersey from Argentina's 2022 World Cup run, a United States men's national team jersey, shirts signed by David Beckham, Alphonso Davies, and Santiago Jimenez. They even auctioned off the actual official match ball used in the World Cup final itself. If you're building a list of the most star-studded charity auctions in recent memory, this is right at the top. And sitting quietly among all of that firepower, Messi, Madonna, Beckham, Bieber, were 7 pieces of clothing from 7 members of BTS. Let's actually break down who else is in this auction, because the star power here is honestly ridiculous when you list it all out in one place. Lionel Messi isn't just any football name. He's widely considered one of the greatest players to ever touch a ball, an 8-time Ballon d'Or winner, and the man who finally delivered Argentina a World Cup title back in 2022. A signed jersey from that championship run is, under normal circumstances, exactly the kind of item that dominates a sports memorabilia auction without any competition at all. Madonna needs almost no introduction. Decades into her career, she remains one of the most recognizable pop icons in the world, and her presence at a World Cup final halftime show is itself a massive statement about how big this event was. Coldplay is one of the highest-grossing touring acts on the planet, filling stadiums across every continent, and Chris Martin handing over his actual handwritten lyrics is the kind of artifact serious music collectors dream about. Justin Bieber and Shakira round out a lineup that, individually, would each headline their own sold-out arena tour tomorrow if they wanted to. This wasn't a lineup Christie's threw together loosely. Every single name on that list is a certified global icon in their own lane. And that's exactly why it matters so much that a jersey worn by one member of a Korean group ended up outbidding every single one of them. Quick pause, because I want you locked in for this next part. If you're enjoying how deep we're going into this story, drop a comment right now telling me who you think should have had the highest bid before I tell you what actually happened. Messi, Madonna, or someone you didn't expect. Type it below. I read every single one, and I'll be checking back in on this comment section after the video. Now here's the lineup from BTS specifically, because every member donated something personal from that same halftime performance. RM gave the boots he wore on stage. Jin donated his belt. Suga's contribution was the pants from his outfit. J-Hope gave his gloves. V donated his scarf. Jungkook put in his jacket. And Jimin gave that white jersey with the red trim and the number 7. 7 members. 7 items. All from the same historic 5 minutes on a football pitch that will be remembered for decades. Every single one of those lots opened at the exact same starting price, $100. Think about that. $100. That's the entry point for owning a literal piece of history from the first K-pop performance at a World Cup final. Bidding officially opened on July 24th and is scheduled to run through July 29th, which means as I'm telling you this story right now, this auction is still live, still open, still climbing, and if you want in, there's still time. I'll tell you exactly how at the end of this video. Okay, here's where it gets absolutely insane. And this is a part of the story that made me want to make this video in the first place. As the bids started rolling in on Christie's website, something nobody predicted started happening. Jimin's jersey, a stage outfit worn for maybe a few minutes during one performance, started climbing past every single other lot in the entire auction. Not just the other BTS pieces. Every lot, including Messi's. Christie's had originally estimated Jimin's jersey would sell somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000. That's already a strong number for a piece of stage-worn clothing. But the bids didn't stop at $5,000. They blew straight through it. As of the most recent count, Jimin's jersey sits at $15,000, with 48 separate bids placed on it. 48 different people, or groups of people, actively fighting for this one piece of fabric. That makes it, right now, both the highest bid item in the entire 26-lot auction and the most bid item, meaning more people are actively competing for this jersey than for anything else Christie's put up for sale, including the football legends. And here's the number that made this whole thing go viral. Messi's signed jersey from the 2022 Argentina championship run, arguably one of the most iconic pieces of football memorabilia you could put in front of a fan, currently sits at $5,500 with 34 bids. Do the math with me. 15,000 versus 5,500. 48 bids versus 34. Jimin's jersey isn't just ahead of Messi's. It's nearly triple the price. A K-pop idol stage outfit, worn for one performance, is currently outperforming a signed jersey connected to one of the greatest football players who has ever lived. If you had told me this was going to happen back in June, I would not have believed you. And it's not stopping there. That $15,000 bid on Jimin's jersey is actually tied with the opening bid for the official match ball used in the World Cup final itself. The literal ball that decided the championship. Tied with a jersey worn during a halftime show. This is not a small story. This is a cultural moment, and it's happening in real time. If your jaw is on the floor right now the same way mine was when I found the story, Do me a favor and hit that like button, because it genuinely helps this video reach more people who need to see this. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time, because we're about to get into why this is happening, and it's not just random luck. So why is this happening? Why would a jersey worn by a K-pop performer during a halftime show at a football match outbid one of the most recognizable athletes on the planet? A few reasons, and I think they all matter. First, timing. BTS performing at a World Cup final halftime show isn't just a nice moment for fans. It's historic in the most literal sense of the word. No K-pop act has ever done this before. Not at the World Cup, not at this level. This is the first time, ever, that the genre has stood on that specific stage, in that specific spotlight, in front of that specific audience. When something is a genuine first, collectors and fans treat it differently. It's not just merchandise. It's a marker in history, the same way people collect first edition anything, first pressing of a record, first print of a comic, first flight ticket from an airline. Owning Jimin's jersey means owning a piece of the moment K-pop broke into World Cup history. Second reason, and this one is about Jimin specifically. Whether you follow BTS closely, or you're hearing his name for the first time in this video, Jimin has built one of the most devoted global fan bases in modern music. ARMY, the BTS fandom, is known across the entire internet for two things: their scale and their organization. When ARMY decides something matters, they don't just show up individually, they mobilize as a coordinated global community, and that shows up in ticket sales, in chart records, in social media trends, and now, clearly, in charity auctions. 48 bids on one jersey in a matter of days isn't an accident. That's a fan base recognizing a moment and deciding collectively that this piece of history deserves to be fought for. And third, this jersey isn't just a BTS thing. It's a tribute, physically built into the design. That number 7 isn't Jimin's personal number. It's not a random football reference. It's 7, for 7 members, worn by one of them, on the exact stage where the group made history together, even though only some of them are visible in that specific outfit shot. It's the kind of detail that turns a stage costume into a symbol. And symbols, historically, are exactly the kind of thing that outperform expectations at auction, because people aren't just bidding on fabric, they're bidding on meaning. If you're wondering whether this kind of fan-driven bidding surge is a one-off fluke, it really isn't, and it's worth understanding why. BTS has spent years building a reputation for breaking records that were previously considered locked in by Western pop acts. Chart records, touring records, streaming records. ARMY, as a global community, has become almost a case study in how a modern fanbase can organize at scale, whether that's flooding a hashtag, pushing an album to #1 within hours of release, or in this case, coordinating to make sure a single jersey doesn't get quietly outbid by anyone, including a football legend. What makes this particular moment different from a typical chart battle, though, is the venue. This isn't a music chart. This isn't a streaming platform. This is Christie's, one of the 2 most prestigious auction houses on the planet, a name usually associated with fine art and estate jewelry, not stage costumes from a football halftime show. For ARMY to show up in that specific arena and outbid a sports icon isn't just a fandom flex. It's proof that the audience BTS built doesn't stay in one lane. They follow the group wherever the group goes, whether that's a world tour stadium, a Paris fashion runway, or, apparently, an online charity auction sitting next to Lionel Messi's memorabilia. Now let's talk about where this money is actually going, because this is the part of the story that I think deserves just as much attention as the bidding numbers. This entire auction, every single lot, from Madonna's gloves to Messi's jersey to Jimin's number 7, benefits the FIFA Global Citizen Education Fund. The stated goal behind this initiative is enormous: raising money to support education and access to sports for children in underprivileged communities around the world. So every dollar added to that bidding war isn't just driving up a collector's price tag. It's directly funding real programs for kids who otherwise might not have access to school or sports at all. When you look at it that way, the competition between Jimin's fans and Messi's fans isn't really a rivalry. It's accidentally become one of the more effective fundraising mechanisms Christie's has run in recent memory, because nothing drives bidding like watching 2 fandoms compete for the top spot on a leaderboard, especially when the world is genuinely watching. Let's pull back for a second, because I want you to really sit with the scale of this moment. In one single online auction, Christie's put BTS in direct company with Lionel Messi, Madonna, Coldplay, Justin Bieber, Shakira, David Beckham, and the actual World Cup final match ball. That's not a K-pop auction with a football section tacked on. That's one of the biggest crossover cultural events of 2026. Full stop. Sports media outlets are covering it. Music outlets are covering it. Auction and collectibles outlets are covering it. And sitting at the very top of the leaderboard, ahead of every single one of those names, is a white jersey with red trim and a number 7, donated by a 20-something performer from Korea who, a few days earlier, was dancing on a football pitch in front of 1 billion people. If you're new to BTS or new to Jimin specifically, and you're only finding out about this because of a football headline, welcome. Genuinely welcome, because this is a great entry point into understanding just how far this group's cultural reach extends. This isn't a story that only makes sense if you're already a fan. This is a story about a genre-crossing moment that even football commentators, sports journalists, and general entertainment audiences are talking about right now, in real time, because the numbers speak for themselves. $15,000. 48 bids. Highest and most bid item in a 26-lot charity auction that includes an actual World Cup legend. You don't need to know a single BTS song to understand why that's remarkable. So here's where I want to bring you into the story, because this auction is still open right now. If you're watching this before July 29th, 2026, this isn't history yet, it's still happening. The bidding is live. The number could climb even higher than $15,000 by the time this video goes up. And honestly, given the trajectory, I wouldn't be surprised if it does. You can go check the current bid yourself directly through the Christie's One Goal auction page. Just search Christie's One Goal FIFA auction, and you'll find a live listing with all 26 lots, including Jimin's jersey and every other item we talked about today. And remember, every single dollar bid goes toward the FIFA Global Citizen Education Fund, so even watching the numbers climb means watching real support for kids' education and access to sports grow in real time. Let's also talk about the other pieces of this puzzle for a second, because the full lineup of BTS items tells its own story about how this halftime show came together. Christie's noted that all 7 members donated 1 garment each from that same performance, which means this isn't a single celebrity moment. It's a coordinated group effort. RM's boots, Jin's belt, Suga's pants, J-Hope's gloves, V's scarf, Jungkook's jacket, and Jimin's jersey are all sitting in the same auction, all opened at that same $100 starting point, all tied to the exact same 5 minutes on that field. And even though Jimin's jersey is the one currently leading the pack, the fact that every single piece from every single member is being actively bid on says something too. This wasn't a moment fans cared about because of one person. It's a moment fans cared about because of what the group accomplished together on a stage no K-pop act had ever stood on before. That context matters because it's easy to look at a headline like Jimin beats Messi and think this is purely about one individual's popularity. It's bigger than that. It's about a group of 7 people who walked onto a football pitch in front of the entire world and made history, and a fan base that showed up to make sure that history gets remembered and funded. It's also worth pointing out how unusual it is for a charity auction tied to a sporting event to generate this much crossover attention in the first place. Sports memorabilia auctions and music memorabilia auctions typically stay in their own worlds. Football fans bid on football items. Music fans bid on music items. Rarely do the two audiences collide directly on the same leaderboard, competing dollar for dollar, bid for bid, in a way that's publicly visible in real time. That's exactly what's happening here, and it's part of why outlets covering football, outlets covering pop culture, and outlets covering collectibles are all writing about the same story right now, each from a slightly different angle. For football journalists, the story is a K-pop jersey outbid Messi. For music journalists, the story is BTS made World Cup history. For collectibles and auction journalists, the story is Christie's charity sale is massively outperforming expectations. All 3 of those headlines are describing the exact same $15,000 bid. Before you go, let's do a quick recap of everything that just happened, because it genuinely is a lot to take in. On July 19th, BTS became the first K-pop act in history to perform at a FIFA World Cup final halftime show, alongside Coldplay, Shakira, and Justin Bieber. Jimin wore a custom white jersey with red trim and a tribute number 7. Days later, That exact jersey was donated to a Christie's charity auction alongside items from Messi, Madonna, Beckham, and more. And as of right now, that jersey sits at the very top of the entire auction. Highest bid, most bids, tripling its original estimate, and outbidding a Lionel Messi jersey in the process. That is not a small footnote in either football history or music history. That's a genuine crossover moment, the kind that doesn't happen very often, and you got to hear the full story right here. One more thing before we wrap up, because I think it's the most important part of this whole story to sit with. It's easy to get caught up in the numbers. $15,000, 48 bids, tripling an estimate, beating a legend. Those numbers are genuinely wild, and they're exactly why the story is spreading right now. But underneath all of that is a much simpler idea. A group of performers from completely different corners of the entertainment world all agreed to give up something personal, literal clothing off their backs from one of the biggest nights of their careers, so that kids somewhere in the world could get better access to education and sports. Messi didn't have to donate that jersey. Madonna didn't have to hand over those gloves. Chris Martin didn't have to give up handwritten lyrics that most artists would keep locked away forever. And Jimin didn't have to donate a jersey that, it turns out, would end up being the single most fought-over item in the entire sale. Every one of them chose to. And now, because fans on every side decided to compete for these pieces instead of letting them quietly sell at the opening bid, that charity is going to walk away with a lot more than anyone originally expected. If this video taught you something you didn't know 5 minutes ago, that's exactly what we're here for. So let me know in the comments. Were you Team Messi, Team Jimin, or completely blindsided by this whole story? I want to hear it, and I want to know if you think the final number climbs even higher before bidding closes on July 29th. Hit subscribe if you want to catch these crossover moments the second they happen, because stories like this move fast, they don't stay under the radar for long, and we like to be first to break them down for you properly, with real context and no exaggeration. Drop a like if you made it this far. It genuinely helps this video reach the people who need to see it. Share it with a friend who's into either football or K-pop, because trust me, they're going to want to see this too. And I will see you in the very next one.